Who's got the best part of this deal? Steven Gerrard or Aston Villa?
I don't know. I might have to sit on the fence. I'm not sure. I mean, I think it's actually a good deal for both. Maybe I'd say Steven Gerrard. I'd actually say Steven Gerrard in some ways. You know, it's his first job in the Premier League, and when you go into the Premier League for your first time as a manager, to get a job as big as Villa, I think is fantastic for Stevie. It really is. You know, gives him a real opportunity to push for European places. No manager is ever going to get one of the real plum jobs. I think just on the back of what Stevie's done at Rangers in the Premier League now, it's a league where every manager in the world wants to manage. So to get a club as big as Aston Villa, who I think is one of the biggest clubs in this country, and I class as a top 10 club at least, that's where Aston Villa should be aiming to be minimum. I'd actually say it's possibly Stevie, really, in some ways, because as I said, Aston Villa could have maybe got other managers as well, with maybe different records, maybe not the profile of Steven Gerrard, but no, I think it's a great job for Steve, and I mentioned that on Sunday when this speculation started.
Yeah, it is. It is clearly a great job. So that said, then, Jamie, how difficult a decision would it have been for him to leave Rangers?
It would have been because of the timing. I really do believe that. I think Stevie would love to have added another league title and done a 4 years there, and he could win the title twice, in a great position to do that. It's not a given. Obviously, there's still the second half of the season, but I think to come away from Rangers having 2 titles, and also then going into that next job, which everyone felt was always going to be the Premier League, with the pre-season in front of you, I think is always ideal for a manager. So I think that's where it may have torn Stevie. The fact that it's halfway through a season, he's straight into it with Aston Villa. But in terms of going from the SPL to the Premier League, I just don't think it's a decision, and that's just unfortunate for Celtic and Rangers, 2 of the biggest clubs. Anyway, they really are. I mean, I'm not going to be disrespectful to either of those clubs. They're absolute giants. But it's not how big Villa is compared to Rangers. It's how big the Premier League is compared to the Scottish Premier League, and it's night and day. And any player who gets the opportunity, whether he's playing for Celtic or Rangers or a manager, to move to the Premier League, everyone will make that move. And we saw that a few years ago with Brendan Rodgers leaving Celtic to Leicester as well. It's just a problem for those 2, fantastic clubs. But when a Premier League club comes for you, certainly one as big as Aston Villa, I think it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, absolutely. Villa, though, lost 5 in a row, Jamie. So how big a challenge is it for Gerrard?
Well, it is a big challenge because they're at the wrong end of the table. They will have envisaged that they will be maybe trying to challenge for European places this season. And no, Jack Grealish has moved on. But they obviously spent that money and felt they'd spent it wisely. And where they are at this moment is not where they want to be. You talk about the 5 defeats as well, Mike, but I think Villa's owners will also be looking at not just this season, but 2021 as a whole, really, and maybe the results in the second half of last season weren't as great as they should have been. I think there's only maybe Southampton who maybe lost more games or had less points. So I think the ownership will have looked at that as well, even though I feel Dean Smith certainly has done a really good job and could maybe feel a little bit harshly treated where he's taken Aston Villa from. But that's Premier League football, and that'll be the same for Stevie in the next sort of 18 months, 2.5 years, whenever it may be. He'll be judged, the same way. So no, I can understand that, and fingers crossed he does well.
Yeah, indeed. How will he set them up, do you think? Will they play attacking football?
Yes, he's come from, or certainly as a player, he's played for one of the big clubs in Liverpool, so more often than not, you're expected to be on the front foot and dominate a game. I think now if you go into management, and Stevie was well aware of this when he went to Rangers, that if you're not seen as a front foot manager or playing a certain way, whether people agree with that or not, I think it may be difficult to get the real top jobs. I really do believe that. And I think any young coach going in now, I think will be aware of that. Again, Stevie went to Rangers, who were a dominant club, who will always dominate 95%, 99% of the games that they play in Scotland. So he'd have to be on the front foot. And it may be a little bit different because Aston Villa are what you might call a mid-table club in the Premier League. So they'll be coming up in a lot of games where they're maybe not expected to win, and maybe a draw would be a good result. So it will be intriguing to see how Stevie sets up in those games and what he does against teams maybe at home or teams he's expected to beat. But That's down to me and Gary to sort out on a Monday night.
Villa are rich. I mean, they're the 5th richest Premier League club. They're only behind Newcastle, City, Chelsea and Arsenal. Will Steven expect them to spend again in January? Because they've already spent a lot for Dean Smith.
Yeah, but I think the money they spent for Dean Smith, certainly this summer, will have been Jack Grealish money, and that's totally understandable. Certainly the situation most clubs are in after the pandemic. But I'm sure Stevie, in the talks that he's had, it won't just be about the players that we have in his own contract. It'll be about where can Aston Villa improve and will he have funds to do that. And I think he'll possibly have more funds if it doesn't go well to start with, because Villa are in a precarious position and there's no way this ownership or Stevie will want them to be involved in a relegation battle. So if the early results don't go well and Stevie feels he needs a little bit more to make sure they stay in the division, because the position that they're in right now is not great, there may be more activity. But I think Steve would be hopeful that the results go well and he doesn't need to add too much, because I do feel Villa have got a really good squad. I do. I think if you go through, the goalkeeper, I think, is as good as anyone in the Premier League if you take away, the real superstars in terms of Ederson and Alisson at Liverpool. Ollie Watkins at the top end of the pitch, John McGinn in midfield. I think Matty Cash, a really, really good right back compared to most right full backs in the Premier League. Got Danny Ings there as well. And also the money that they've already spent on Bailey and Buendia, who will show a lot more than what they've done. It's still early days for them. So I actually think Villa have got a really good squad. And the squad they've got now, I think, should be a top 10 team. And if Stevie needs to add for that and also bring his expertise and whatever he brings to the party, I think they can be certainly comfortable in that position.
Now, Jamie, I'm not going to be the last person to ask you this, I'm sure, but is this a stepping stone for Steven for the Liverpool job?
No, and I think it's disrespectful to Stevie, and I think it's disrespectful to Aston Villa, really, that this comes up. And that's not having a go at you, Mike. I know this is the question for everyone, but I can assure you that Aston Villa is a football club and no stepping stone for anyone. They've won a European Cup, the biggest club in the Midlands, one of the biggest clubs in the UK. Now, I'm sure everyone is well aware that one day, if it worked perfectly, Stevie would like to manage Liverpool. But I can guarantee you, Stevie was only one to manage Liverpool. One, if he merited it. And also, I think the club supporters would think that, and the football club themselves. Liverpool are not in a position to give a job in the future to someone just because he had a great playing career. If Stevie does amazingly well at Aston Villa and is qualifying for Europe, maybe he could add a Carabao Cup, maybe that will put him in the equation then for Liverpool. But Liverpool, along with Manchester United, Man City, Chelsea, they will be attracting the best managers in the world, and that's obviously the challenge for Stevie, to make himself one of the best managers in European or world football, and then I'm sure he'll have a great shout. But if he doesn't get there, I don't think Stevie would be wanting to take a job when they felt maybe someone else could be better at Liverpool. And I don't think the club would either. So I think for Stevie, it's just focus on Aston Villa and don't worry about anything else.
Sure. Great job for him. Jamie, lovely to speak to you. Thanks very much.